Hey guys, this is God of Politics, and welcome back to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But in today's video, I do want to talk about the House of Representatives, and specifically, will Nancy Pelosi be Speaker of the House anymore? She's the incumbent Speaker of the House, and it is looking like she may not be Speaker anymore. Now, I do think the most likely scenario is that she ends up being Speaker, but there is a possibility that she isn't. And with all the infighting within the party that you're seeing going on between, the blue dog Democrats, the more generic Democrats, and the progressive Democrats, it could cause a lot of problems for Democrats, not only in this election and this cycle, but also in future elections. Because, Nancy Pelosi is actually not that popular of a figure. She has, according to 2018 exit polls, which were, a D+9 electorate, even in the D+9 electorate, she only had a 31% approval rating versus a 56% disapproval rating. But in the 2019 speaker elections, she did get elected Speaker. The Democrats had 235 seats in the House, but there were 15 Democrat defections. And you can see a number of them here. Anthony Brindisi, he may or may no longer be in the House. We don't know when the votes are going to be counted. We don't know what those votes will show. I think he's more likely going to stay in the House than not, but he defected in 2019. Jason Crow is still there. Joe Cunningham is gone. Jared Golden's still there. Ron Kind is still there. Connor Lamb is still there. Ben McAdams is gone. Kathleen Rice is still there. Max Rose is gone. Kurt Schrader is still there. Mikey Sherrill is still there. Alyssa Slotkin is still there. Abigail Spanberger is still there. Jeff Andrews now a Republican. And that is it. So those are all of the defections. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5 of those 15 did not vote for Nancy Pelosi in 2019. But now you see that the Democrats, if they had 15 defections this time, Nancy Pelosi would be nowhere near the votes that she needs for the speakership. So currently Democrats are at 218 seats, and the Republicans are at 204. There are a number of seats still outstanding. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. About 11 seats that are still outstanding, plus Louisiana's 5th district, which is going to go Republican. There's just a runoff there. And currently with these outstanding districts, say a conservative estimate for Democrats, they only win, say, 3 of these districts. So they win, New York 18, New York 19, and New York's 3rd and the 7th. So they get 4 more of these districts. So that would get them to 222 seats here. If they get 222 seats, we had recent news that Alyssa Slotkin has said she is not voting for Nancy Pelosi. She's flat out said, "I will not be voting for Nancy Pelosi." She told Politico in a report published Friday. "I have no idea if people are going to run against her or who might run against her, and I will, of course, have this conversation directly with her, but I do believe we need new leadership. I would love to see more Midwesterners, because if you look across the leadership, I respect these people, but it's New York and California." That's completely true. Most of the people that are the leaders of the Democrats in the House, and the Republicans too, are actually from the coastal states, New York, California, some from Massachusetts, etc. And so this is going to create a problem for Democrats, because even if they get, a good scenario, maybe they win Iowa's 2nd, that gets them to 223. Maybe they win California's 25th, that gets them to 224. Maybe they pull off the 22nd, that gets them to 225, and they pull off the 2nd, that gets them to 226. Say they get 226 seats. At that point, you can only have 8 defections to still have a majority. And, you look at some of these moderate Democrats, you look at 10 of the Democrats who defected in 2018, are still in the House. So if those same people defected, Nancy Pelosi would not have enough votes for the speakership. And that's if Democrats win some seats that they're not actually winning in now. And they'd have to win in, Mike Garcia's district where they're losing. They'd have to win in Iowa's 2nd where they're losing. They'd have to win in New York's 22nd where they're losing, and New York's 2nd. And still at that point, she's not going to have the votes she needs. And what she has to do is she has to hope that she doesn't get a very notable person running against her. And if we look at the current speakership vote, there's only, 3 people noted as potential people that could replace Nancy Pelosi. None of them are actually running, but they're potential candidates. Number 1 is Amy Baer from California's 7th Congressional District. Number 2 is Sherry Bustos from Illinois' 17th Congressional District. Number 3 is Hakeem Jeffries from New York's 8th Congressional District. Now, I do want to talk about, all 3 of these. Hakeem Jeffries first, I doubt he would run for the speakership. He's already in a high up position, and if he runs for speakership, he probably won't end up winning, and you also have a situation where he's not going to get that much of a good position in the House if he runs against Nancy Pelosi. Cheri Bustos, she's the head of the DCCC, but she barely won a re-election. You can see right now she's only winning by 3.8 percentage points here, and she'll end up winning by more when all the votes are counted, but currently she's not winning by very much. She won by 17 percentage points in 2018, and now she's only winning by 3.8 percentage points, and taking on the speakership is not a popular position. You look at the speakers of the House in the past and the Senate Majority Leader, Senate Minority Leaders, none of them were very popular. Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, Paul Ryan, John Boehner, they were all very unpopular figures, and they still are very unpopular figures, at least the ones that are still in office. So you have a tough problem for Nancy Pelosi. I don't know much about Amy Barra. I haven't really heard his name floating around that much. I think it kind of would not happen given the fact that, replacing Nancy Pelosi with another person from California who's, less well known, I see that not as much of a likely scenario. So all three of these candidates that are not even running, but they're potential candidates, all three of these candidates might not be that good. So at the end of the day, Nancy Pelosi may not have a majority of the votes, but she's also not going to have any real opposition to her. So, if you look at who voted against Nancy Pelosi in 2018, none of these are real, people that would be considered for the House. None of them were running for the House. Some people, Kathleen Rice voted for Stacey Abrams. You can see here that Alyssa Slotkin voted present. You can see, Joe Cunningham voted for Cheri Bustos. You can see Jason Crow voted for Tammy Duckworth. You can also see Connor Lamb voted for Joe Kennedy. So you get, these kinds of things here where they're not actually voting for some. You can see sure that Cheri Bustos got a couple votes. Jared Golden got one. Joe Cunningham gave her one, as well as Mikey Sherrill. So that's 3 votes for Cheri Bustos. But why would she run for speakership when she's going to have a problem in her seat herself? She might actually lose her seat, similar to how Harry Reid almost lost his seat as a Senate Majority Leader for the Democrats back in 2010. So you have an issue where, Cheri Bustos becomes the speaker. She's going to be heavily targeted in 2022 and probably end up losing your seat. And then you have the same infighting in the party in 2022 when you're trying to find a leader that probably will not be the Speaker of the House because Democrats will have lost their majority by then. But if Democrats were smart, honestly, they probably would replace Nancy Pelosi as Speaker. Like I said before, she's not a popular figure. She's 31% approval rating with a D+9 electorate. It means her approval rating is probably hovering around 30% at this point is what I would predict, and that's not really good because you don't have a mandate from the people, and you have a lot of things for these Republican candidates to run against. You have, the coastal elite of Nancy Pelosi is how they could phrase it, against the radical left. That's how they phrase it. That's not necessarily true, but that is how they phrase it, and that is how they did well in a lot of these House races. So even people who voted, these people voted for Nancy Pelosi and ended up losing. It's not necessarily because they voted for Nancy Pelosi, but it's part of that campaign message. And so in the long run, it's probably better for Democrats if they do replace Nancy Pelosi, but I just don't see who they're going to replace Nancy Pelosi with, and I don't think there is going to be any opposition to her, even if enough people vote against her. I don't actually know necessarily how the system works. I believe if nobody gets a majority, they do a second ballot or something like that. People would end up going in line and voting for Nancy Pelosi because that's just, how it's going to end up. But Democrats are not in a good position for the House right now. They didn't have a good election this year. They won't have a good election in 2022, most likely, and it is going to not be good for Nancy Pelosi. She's not even going to run in 2022. She's already said that, I believe. So, this could be the last we see from Nancy Pelosi, but I am predicting she will serve as Speaker for another 2 years. So, anyway, thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But again, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.